everything. The way I walk, the way I breathe. Feel my fate shift into the night. But here I am, same old thing. Sinking deep, no ecstasy. Reality haunts the living mind. If I saw another day, only to scream into the night. Nothing ever tries to change, even if I want to realize. 'Cause I've been sitting here, same old ways, thinking off about the same mistake. Darling, when you go away, it won't be as simple for you.
Yo guys, yo guys, yo guys, Old Man G here, RDS back. It has been a while. This is my first time streaming in ages. And well, I mean, I thought it was going to be a World Cup preview. But a lot has happened since I've last streaming. Obviously United with their wins. But I think the big thing, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, and I'm joined by Factos, and it is the Ronaldo interview. We're going to give, our thoughts. I'm going to react. I did take some notes from key segments of the interview. But before we get into it, first and foremost, Factors, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Before we get started in this, I just want to say, I just want to wish Manchester United's best ever Portuguese player happy birthday. So let's all say happy birthday to Luis Nani. But before we start, listen. Obviously, we want to talk about Cristiano. You've got notes. I don't have notes, but obviously I'm gonna speak from the heart. But before we get started, I just want to say, man, you see this scarf here? Ronaldo scarf. I got this from when he came back against Newcastle. That game. One of the best games I've ever been to. The atmosphere was amazing. It's a memory that I will cherish with me for the rest of my life. Literally, like everybody you saw in Manchester that day was just Viva Ronaldo. Like it was mad. It was like Elvis came to town or something. It was just a magical experience. Even one of my friends who was a Leeds United fan, he came to the game just because of Cristiano Ronaldo. So this guy, I think, is top two in my humble opinion, greatest players of all times, and that's not going to change until the World Cup. Obviously, if Messi wins the World Cup, now I think that'll make him undisputed number one. But I want to give him his flowers first before we go in and bury him. So I just wanted to get that out the way first and foremost, to say that to me, he's my first ever footballing hero, and he's the first player that I actually idolized when I was a child growing up, and I was sad to see him go to Real Madrid. And when he came back, I'm not gonna lie, I actually got him. Like when you see your childhood heroes coming back, it was a mad experience. And obviously it's gone to crap. So I just want to give him his flowers and say that and I'm glad that he actually did this interview. I actually like people who speak their mind. We can agree to disagree. Cristiano Ronaldo is clearly like very narcissistic. He obviously thinks highly of himself, and rightly so. You need to have that mentality to be at the top level, and there's a fine line between having elite mentality and belief in yourself and being delusional. And there's going to be moments in where you actually skirt over the line and you start to come across as someone who's delusional. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way and say, let's give him his flowers first before we go and dissect what he's actually said in this interview.
Okay, thanks for that, Factos. First, thanks to those who are joining us in the chat as well. So it always amazes me that I can be gone for how long, and there'll still be people that will come back and be like, "Hey, how you doing, RDS?" So I'm happy for that. So like, I appreciate it. Shout out to David T in the chat, man. To Eddie as well. Sibatsa Jim Jumps interviews are very good, apart from Piers not questioning enough. I do agree with that. CR7 still legend, but he's not needed in the team in 2022. Before I go into it, because like I said, I did take notes and I've got plenty of notes here. I think that, like I said, I didn't really post a lot on Twitter regarding the whole thing because I wanted to have a clear picture. I wanted to have both interviews together because I never like having splintering things and stuff like that. So I wanted the full thing together so I could actually see what Ronaldo was saying and the context, the overall feel of the interview. That's the first thing. Because what I noticed, it also didn't help. I was busy. I had an exam, important exam. But what I noticed on Twitter on Sunday, Monday was that there was just this barrage of quotes coming out and people reacting and negativity and why Ronaldo did this and just various different extremes. So which is one of the things I actually don't like about the 21st 22 is that there is you cannot you always have to be either a extreme Ronaldo fanboy or or Ronaldo out. There's no room for nuance anymore. So I wanted to come across this as hopefully a more of a balanced, nuanced approach to it. If you want my personal opinion, and I think my opinion was shaped by the initial reaction to it. So I assumed going into this interview that there was just going to be all these fireworks and he's going to say this and that and stuff like that. But to be honest, 90%, a lot of the interview, like the content was there that I pretty much already guessed, already knew in terms of how the Glazers were run, in terms of relationship with Sir Alex Ferguson, in terms of his illness with obviously his child dying and all the rest of it. So most of the interview I was kind of, okay, it was good to hear confirmation about it. Some of it was just some of it was just jokes, like when we'll get into that, but when he mentioned certain things about Rooney's appearance and but when I heard it in context, I was like, they're just banter, it's just jokes. Like it wasn't like a call out thing. But if Twitter was anything to go by, it was like, oh, he intentionally kind of went to
Rooney, It
was just when I heard this, it's like most of it was in a context. So this is what I'm saying. Where like it's one of the things I don't like about modern culture now is that people take quotes and sort of things, they take it out of context, they react to it, they make their opinions, and it creates this polarization that you have where you have
to be fair, Piers Morgan, he designed it that way. He was dripping those snippets of the interview, knowing fully well that they completely
this is exactly Solo's summarized the entire things that I felt. Ronaldo's not having an interview. This guy's having a conversation with a fan in front of a camera. To be honest, that's actually how I felt. I was like, this is him just having a conversation with, like, because clearly Piers Morgan is like a fan, one of his favorite fans, and he's just like
more than a fan, bro. I think Piers Morgan.
Oh, of course.
Nah, these two are like, they're doing something behind the scene, man. Like Piers Morgan absolutely loves him, man. Like he was,
but to be honest, like he says at the start of it, they're like, bro, like my clip when you said I had like. I think at the start of the interview says, like, again, in the jokey way, like, I remember you told me that Piers Morgan has big, good abdominal muscles to Piers. And Piers, like, that video got like 43 million views or something on those lines. So obviously it makes sense, that he wants to have a picture of something. So, but anyway.
But then like, on the flip side to that,
yeah,
obviously there are drawbacks to Piers doing the interview because he was deriding. Let's be real, like he was a fan and he was asking him leading questions, like he was shifting the narrative. I feel like Piers was the one that was shifting the narrative. He didn't really press Cristiano Ronaldo, which is what you're supposed to do as a journalist. You're supposed to press whoever you're trying to interview. But I do feel the fact that clearly these two guys are friends. They've got. I think the last interview that Cristiano did with Piers, remember he broke down. He was crying about his father and that. Do you know what I mean? So they have that, and I feel like because Cristiano was relaxed, he was able to open up and speak more openly about a lot of things than, let's say, if somebody that was there that was pressing him and getting him agitated. Would we have got the detailed information that we got from him? I don't think we would have. He would have just been maybe angry and just be like, no, yes, so we'll see kind of responses. Whereas he was, he was going into
the only thing I'll say about the journalism thing is that, and we'll talk about this in the interview as well, and I agree with him, is that journalism in general is crap. Journalism, modern journalism is not about finding the truth anymore. It's about pressing. Journalism is about, how can I create a story to sell papers and generate clicks? That is journalism. So even when Ronaldo talked, for example, about the reality of a good journalist would be like, oh, I've now found out for a source of friend that it's because his daughter was ill with bronchitis, etc. That's what a good journalist would do. What modern journalism is now is like, see, but that's boring. Let me create a story or narrative that has clicks and things that sells and generates and stuff like that. So, and that's not me saying that I'm a Ronaldo fanboy or whatever, but I agree with that. Like, that's like the amount of times that like I'll be on Twitter and I'll see people quote the same people who have been proven to have lied over and over again. I'll go, why are you still citing this newspaper, this account, this something, when they've shown that they've lied multiple times? You're citing them as gospel, So, but anyway, let me quickly read the comments, and then we'll go to the first point, which is Ronaldo talking about like the move from like Juve to City. Let's quickly. Okay, so Vignesh. Sorry, man. Even though his daughter was ill, Ten Hag had every right to drop him as he wasn't fit enough, and you could see it from another disaster class of another. That's fair. Shout out to SMB. Yo, what's up? Smassy, and I remember, really appreciate you coming in and said somebody said Ronaldo is Qatar. What? Somebody said
a World Cup of human beings. What?
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
That's interesting. It is interesting how people have reacted globally more negatively to the Ronaldo thing than issues of Qatar. But I don't want to turn it into politics or anything. I'm just saying that, like, when people are talking about moral stuff, I'm like, really? Morality in football? We're really going to have that conversation? I'm not going to talk about the moral in this issue because there's a lot of things going on in football anyway, I'll put that to one side, but anyway, main thing that came through is a complete lack of self-awareness and massive ego. Fair enough. That's your opinion. There wouldn't be any difference if you replaced Piers with speed. It's essentially a fan interview. Okay. Doobly said, I'm Ronaldo, you can't bench me and bring me on for 3 minutes. Thinks he's above everyone else. Yeah, I took note of that. We're going to react to that. There's nothing about being common about yourself. One of the things I like Ronaldo is because his reliability and realism. Ronaldo is a real person, not a robot. Okay,
listen, I agree with that. Was that a super chat or comment? I agree with that the fullest, and I think that's the reason why he has people gravitate to him more than Lionel Messi. He is so relatable, as in, like, we are human beings here. Like, we've done all cock-ups at work, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not scared to show his emotions. He's not scared to say what he believes in. That's definitely something that's relatable. I definitely agree with that comment.
So it appears interesting. He should have asked him that, yes, you missed the preseason because of your daughter, but what about the rumors about you looking to leave? I thought that was addressed in the interview.
That was addressed. That was addressed.
It was addressed in the interview. He pretty much said that, he had plenty of offers, but he said that, especially the one I saw, the second part, which is why I'm interested, is that he did have offers, but he wanted to stay at Manchester United. That's what he said. So, but again, this is the problem because, people accept people. It's difficult, but people kind of like just accept what any newspaper or tablet or tablet says. I'm not saying there's no smoke around any fire, but part of the reason why obviously Ronaldo did this interview was because in his words, or he claims that a lot of what was said in the press, a lot of what was generated was garbage. So we're now in a situation where because people will just believe what the press says, that when someone comes out and says, like, I see it's a lot sometimes when someone will accuse something of wrongdoing, the press will, and they'll come up and it'll be proven that they haven't done it. But then even though the person's come with evidence to say, no, I wouldn't do it, because so many newspapers and articles have generated news around it, people will still believe the news and not the person.
But he could be lying as well. I feel like when he said I was happy to stay at Manchester United, I'm like, no, he wasn't. Like if I think what he did say was he had offers, but I think what he said was there wasn't that many offers from, let's say, the big teams or the clubs that he really wanted to go to, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? So he did have offers with like Saudi Arabia and maybe some other small teams.
I think what it would put into context was that, like, what he said on the part into which made sense is that, like, agents speak to multiple different clubs all the time.
Yeah, and his name gets mentioned. Yeah,
so we don't hear about it. Like even the Ronaldo too. I'm sure Rashford's agent was speaking to PSG.
Yeah.
So it's not. So when people say, "Oh, his agent was speaking to," this is like, yeah, that's what agents do. So but because it was the name of Ronaldo, it's like, okay, well, that's why this has to be in every newspaper and stuff like that. It's like,
yeah.
It's how we explain it, which is like, okay, I didn't actually, I can understand that. Was like, yeah, like there'll be other players at Manchester United that are speaking to agents of other clubs right now, but they're not going to get the level of clout because it's a Ronaldo name.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, let me. So first things first, because I'm going on, and guys, thank you guys for watching. Like the vid. I'm going to be trying to be as almost impartial as possible, not be a Ronaldo fanboy, but at the same time not be a sort of. I just want to kind of be a bit more holistic about it. So coming back to United, so I'll just a few notes that I put down. I'll hand it over to you, Factos. So he says at the start about his relationship with Sir Alex Ferguson, how him speaking to him over the phone saying it was impossible to go to City, how the transfer to City with him was closed, that there was interest from City, and that it was his heart and how he wanted to come back to the club, and of course that when he came back, he referenced when he came back, played in that Newcastle game when he scored a brace, and as you said, it was a magical, memorable day. It was a memorable day. It was awesome, and he loved it. So what were your thoughts on that whole thing about him coming back?
Yeah, this is one of those when I was hearing talking about his return to United. By the way, can you hear me? Is my mic okay? Do I need to?
Yeah, no, I can hear him. Can hear, man. Can hear.
Okay. When I say it's very relatable, there's something that he said that really resonated with me when he said that in his career, most of the decisions that he's made were with his head, were rational decisions, whereas he felt like him coming back to United was more of an emotional decision. Like he said, he felt like he was following his heart, based on the history that he had at the club and the bond. Let's not forget, man, like I do believe that. I think Cristiano, I do believe that he loves United. I do believe that obviously he loves himself more than United. I'm not deluded to not believe that. But I do believe that he loves United because at the end of the day, he came here when he was a boy and he left when he was, he learned how to become the world's best player when he was here. He had a lot of memories here. And obviously Sir Alex Ferguson is the person who literally molded him into the footballer that he is. So that emotional connection, I believe, is what led him to come back to United. Now, he's saying that Manchester City was very close. At the time, I remember that day vividly, like, because it was mad. I don't know, is that 27th of August? I think it was 2021. I think it was. It was a mad day because we got the announcement that Cristiano is leaving Juventus. And then, remember, Messi left PSG. Sorry, Messi left Barcelona. And that broke the internet. This broke. That's the weirdest transfer ever. And then we hear that Cristiano is going to leave Juventus. Man City are going in for him. And it was very strong links. I remember Pep Guardiola in a press conference saying that it's up to Cristiano what he wants to do. And then Rio Ferdinand and then Patrice Evra and them guys, Rio posted that video. Like United fans were into like meltdowns when we heard he was going to go to Man City. You just can't let that happen. And here's the thing, like, of course, it's gone into shit. The whole him coming back. But would I do it again as a fan? Of course I would. There's no way he should have gone to Manchester City and win them the Premier League and the Champions League. That would have completely tarnished his legacy at Manchester United. So, do I believe him when he says that Man City were close? I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks was George Mendes playing 3D chess, because like Cristiano has always used United as a leverage to get more money at Real Madrid. Remember, he used to say, I want to go back, and when he was negotiating contracts, and then we get more money. Did he use Man City, knowing that Manchester United, to kind of like lure Manchester United into the move? Or was it a case of he wanted to go to Man City and United came in at the last minute?
Well, we can only because I guess I want to sort of focus on what Ronaldo is saying, because you're right. We can speculate potentially about like what the situation, whether he used a leverage, whether he not, and that could be true either way. So, but
then if we go off what he's saying, then we have to believe that he wanted to go to City, and if it wasn't for Fergie, he came. So he didn't want us in the first place. Like this snake was gonna go play for Man City. Do you know what I mean? And then, so I don't know, bro. Like, to me, it's irrelevant. He came to United, end of the day. I don't care if he could have gone City. It doesn't matter now. He came to United.
It is interesting because if the last time I remember doing one of these live streams, I don't know. I think it was you. Was it you? Was it Eddie? I think it might have been Eddie. Yeah. And there was a talk about I basically saying that I don't think Ronaldo is a legend, because I think that my definition of legend. Yeah, I said this before.
What for United?
Yeah, this was even before this came out, because my definition of legend.
Nah, he's more than a legend, bro.
No,
he's more than a legend.
My definition of legend was that someone who's spent most of his career at the same club and has won multiple trophies. So that's why I say, for me, like let's say George Best, Bobby Charlton.
But then, what about somebody who didn't spend as much time but just won as many trophies?
Yeah,
he won as much as George Best and Bobby Charlton.
Yeah, one of the greatest. I'll say
at United, he won as much.
Yeah,
as them guys.
Yeah, I would say they're the greatest, one of the greatest. But for me, legend of a club means that you have to spend like at least the majority or a sizable part of the playing career at the club and achieve success if that's the club. That's just my definition. So
in that case, then Maradona isn't a legend of Napoli. Do you know what I mean? Like, the guy was only there for like 5-6 years, or do you see what I'm trying to say? Right?
No. Okay. Well, I'll clarify that with context, in that like is also contextual depending on the club. So before Ronaldo came to Manchester United were successful. Yeah. Whereas when you look, so for example, Leicester, I'm sure that Kasper Schmeichel, Jamie Vardy, etc., like all those players like are legends because of what they achieved for the Premier League. So of course,
Cantona is a United legend.
No, Cantona spent the majority of his playing career.
No, he did not. He was there for 5 years.
But you're very, because Cantona's my favorite player. Got me in. I'll be biased. You got me. You got us. You got us. Because Cantona got me to Manchester United.
To me, Ronaldo is an iconic figure at Manchester United. He's past legendary status. He's in there with Fergie, Busby, Charlton, Best, and you can even put Cantona there. This is why I could not go to, like, if Andy Cole went to Man City, who cares? If Tevez goes to Man City,
man. Relax. Andy Cole was part of a treble team, man.
I know he's a United legend, but did anybody give a crap when he went to Man City? Of course not. Nobody cared.
Peter Schmeichel went to Man City, but not
exactly. But even Dennis Law went there, but that's a whole different story. But my point is that he is the number 7. Do you know what I mean? The last player to win the Ballon d'Or at Manchester United. He, like, what he did in 2008.
No. Yeah, I think
before,
it's just. I just want when I say that, I guess it's just because I want a specific category for even Cantona. As much as I love Cantona, if I'm being objective, I still wouldn't put Cantona at the level of George Best or Bobby Charlton in terms of what they achieved. So, but anyway, we're sidetracking. So, yeah, so I think that just moving on, because obviously if this talk about coming back to United, and let me just quickly get into some comments. Again, let's have a look. What's it? These disputes. If his was into these disputes with the manager have to be held behind closed doors, like Lingard, not airing in public. See, I actually agree with you, Big Nesh, but that's one of the reasons why I was actually surprised that Ten Hag, because one of the things that surprised me about the situation, and again, I'm not going in on, I'm not on either side, to be honest, because I have criticism for Ronaldo, but I actually also have criticisms for Ten Hag as well. Not specifically related to this interview, but just in general, because I'm seeing a lot of people praise, in my opinion, praise Ten Hag for things that I saw previous coaches do. So I'm trying to. But anyway, that's a different thing. I'm
probably Ten Hag out already.
No, I'm not Ten Hag out. I'm not at all. But there's certain things that I think, like any manager, anything that they should have.
He's made mistakes. Is what you're saying.
No, just like, so the biggest one, and again, I don't want to distract from the interview, but for example, the biggest thing for me was why in the summer you spent months chasing a player who then said that he didn't go to the club. Everyone seems to have forgotten about that. Like De Jong for months, when you could have been signing multiple players to strengthen the team, and then at the end of the transfer window, he says, "No, I never wanted to come to." So it's like, so why did we spend months chasing him then? Why did you? That doesn't make any sense, So that's just one thing. But I'm just saying, like, the idea that he's this some sort of infallible, can't do any wrong kind of coach, as Mr. Criticism, which I've seen people react in the way because of this interview, I think is unwarranted. I don't think people should then go and be like, right, just all Ten Hag in because of what Ronaldo's comments have said. I'm like, no, we still need to be fair. But
I mean, we'll get to the Ten Hag point later on, because to me that's
So I wanted, because I'm only bringing this up because it's because I was a bit surprised when Ronaldo walked, and when Ten Hag said what's going to happen to Ronaldo, he mentioned about, like, yes, he's suspended because of this, and so that did surprise me. I thought Ten Hag would not say that Ronaldo was suspended, or that he's got disciplined because of what he did, all that type of stuff. I thought he would just say, we're not going to talk about it, that club will handle it internally. So, but he told to the press.
He did say that initially. But anyway, we'll get to that bit later on.
Anyway, I've also Rooney and Ragnick getting dragged into this. Yeah, Ragnick, see, the Ragnick comments, we're going to come to that. This cloud's invalidates his early message about the Glazers and the club. I don't think it invalidates anything about the Glazers, to be honest. Because when people talk about disrespect and stuff, for me, nothing has disrespected the club more than what the Glazers did with the Super League. That where they basically decided, a few men in the club decided, we're going to form a Super League. We're not going to talk to the players. We're not going to consult the managers. We're not going to consult the fans. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to just join it, and you'll just have to suck it up. And then when it all fell apart, their apology, which wasn't an apology, was just, oops, we whatever.
Oops.
That was literally, there was no apology. There was no humble kind of like, we let you down, or we should try and do this, we should try and, there was nothing. So for me, nothing tops, if we're talking about disrespect, nothing tops that at all. And really, there was the whole Glazers out thing, get them out, etc. And all they had to do was buy Varane, Ronaldo, and Sancho, and everyone was quiet. So, but anyway, I'm going to that. No, full answer. Okay. People like to bash people like Gary Neville and bad press and Glazers, but now calls it out as evil and the devil. It's a fair point.
I've got some controversial opinions on what you said about Neville and Wayne Rooney, but we'll get to it.
We'll get to that. Yeah. Stuff is true. So, so I'm going to come we're going to come to that actually, because that's the next point. So much Massey, because from the notes of the Glazers infrastructure that I've got here, he talks about that United infrastructure was still the same after 13 years, which I find staggering. Although, to be honest, as someone
17
who went
years, because he said he saw the same things when he was 20 and he's 37.
17 years. Because to be honest, when I live in Newcastle, so I went to St James's Park, I went to Stadium of Light, and I'd never been to Old Trafford before. So when I went, in my mind, I was like, well, Newcastle is a smaller club than United. So, of course, Old Trafford in my mind was going to be, better and bigger and just and more exciting, etc. But then when I went into Old Trafford, how many years back, I was like, I mean, yeah, it's a bigger stadium, but the inside, it just looked it looked like it hadn't been developed for quite some time compared to when I was at St James's Park. So I can understand what he's saying when he's saying that like the infrastructure of the club has not changed. He mentioned that it's almost been frozen in time. He mentioned something that I think a lot of people have forgotten is that when people say that the club left because of Sir Alex Ferguson, but he mentioned a key name. He mentioned David Gill, something that a lot of people forget. He mentioned David Gill. He actually emphasized David Gill a lot, saying, "Listen, David Gill was a nice man, good president, etc." And a lot of things changed when Ed Woodward came, and we've known that. We know that, but I thought it was an important note because a lot of people often say it's Sir Alex Ferguson, they're going to spend money, etc. But the fact that he said that it's not just about that, it's how the person actually runs things, to which David Gill who was the president at the time, who then left, did, I think was quite important.
Ideas, just to jump in on this, I feel like in years' time, this will be the legacy of this interview, of this and what he said about Ten Hag, saying he doesn't respect the coach. But we've seen athletes or players say that before, when they don't get along with their managers. What we've never seen is an athlete like him in his position, one of the most. See, here's the thing, like, we know what's going on with Manchester United because we're fans. Do you know what I mean? The majority of the world, they follow Cristiano Ronaldo more than they follow Manchester United or football as a whole. Just in the same way, like, I follow LeBron James and I've never watched an NBA game in my whole life. If there was a bombshell of LeBron James interview, I would listen to it. I feel like this is going to open people's eyes as to, you cannot say nothing has changed in the last 17 years. The jacuzzi is still the same. Like, we're talking about equipment as far back as 2005 and 2006. Like, even the technology is not been updated. It's I would hate to imagine what Carrington is like. And him saying that the Glazers, the owners, they don't care about the club. It's a marketing club. I feel like that will be the legacy of this interview. Like everything else, the shots to Rooney, who's going to remember about that? The shots to Gary Neville, the shots to Ten Hag, who's going to remember about that? I feel like, to me personally, as a United fan, I was so happy to hear him talk about that. And you can call me like, obviously I don't agree with everything else in his interview. Majority of the stuff I don't really agree with, but I will applaud him for coming out and saying this, whether he stays at United after January or he leaves the club. The fact that a football player who's still at the club with the stature of Cristiano Ronaldo came out and talked about the issues behind the scene and how the Glazers have let this club deteriorate. To me, like, that's the best thing about this interview, man. I'll be honest with you. That was the best thing.
Yeah, no, I think that like this, this is almost kind of what I was trying to say before in relation to my thing with Ten Hag and hearing some of these things before, is because I'm seeing what Liverpool are doing. I'm seeing what Newcastle are actively doing. I'm seeing where Arsenal are.
Man City are putting up a women's stadium, you know.
Exactly.
They've already got like a youth team stadium.
Exactly. I'm seeing all these things just going out, and it's kind of like, and in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, we just about scraped a win due to individual brilliance against recently promoted Fulham. Like, that doesn't make me like gassed for. Again, I'm not criticizing Ten Hag or the teams all here, but it's just trying to think open-mindedly. I'm like, where actually is the future of Manchester United as an organization, as a club? Forget about what's going on the pitch. Forget about manager. Where's the future going? Because if things stay the way they are, even if you back Ten Hag and give money, etc., there's no way that as an organization, as a club, that Manchester United are going to be in the same stratosphere as City, as Newcastle, maybe even Liverpool, depending on who they come and get them backed in terms of signing something like that. So I almost have to prepare myself mentally for that reality. I'm not saying that United might win trophies or leagues or occasionally compete or whatever, but in terms of an organization, in terms of a club, because people say, "Oh, they're disrespecting the club and stuff" by this interview, for example. But I just look at like, okay, where Manchester United are going to be in the next 5 years? Are they going to be competing with, Newcastle? Are they going to be? Where's the vision? And right now, it seems that okay, we're hoping that Ten Hag will just make it work with the players. But outside of that, as Ronaldo and people mentioned before, the infrastructure, the direction is completely all over the place. It's messed up. And ultimately, if you don't have that direction, whatever you say about City and Newcastle, the thing is, when you have that direction and understanding and communication from the top down, whatever you say, it affects things going forward. Like, I'll be honest, Eddie, I would not be surprised. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't happen. But if I'm honest, given the reality of Manchester United, would you generally be surprised if Ten Hag in maybe 2.5 seasons?
What? That is my fear. As in, like, we cursed out Mourinho when he talked about football heritage, when he mentioned that finishing second was his greatest achievement. We laughed at comments that ex-players have said about the state of the club, and then years later we've come back and said, actually, he was right. He saw this coming. What if in a couple of years' time we look at this interview and we're cursing out Cristiano right now? This is my fear. We're backing Ten Hag right now because he's giving us results, and Cristiano is not performing, and he's falling out with Cristiano. So obviously we're going to back the manager. But if Ten Hag doesn't deliver, we'll be back here on this stream in a couple of years' time and say, we're going to title the stream, "Was Cristiano right?" Do you know what I mean? But that's the fear, because we've seen this script happen so many times.
And this is what I'm saying, and this is not me justifying some of the things that Ronaldo has said, because we're going to get into his talks on RAGNICK and ROONEY, and especially the RAGNICK comments. I'm like, I don't know what this, bro.
He went in on him, bro.
I mean, we'll come to it. So, but yeah, like the reality for me, and the main thing, but I think what's so shocking about, because people say, "Oh yeah, we know about the glazed infrastructure thing." So, but I don't know what it was when they said that. Just even the stuff, because I was like, okay, the glazed are managed. But when I was kind of hearing, like, you mean to tell me that they haven't actually changed facilities? Like, they haven't the technology that is still, because even when it comes to the scouting and stuff like that, like even when we're scouting for things, you're like, how is it that I always used to ask, how is it that a club of Manchester United stature can't be able to scout really good talent? How come Brighton can do it? How come Leicester? How come they can find these like nice cheap buys around?
To play devil's advocate a little bit, I feel like there has been changes behind the scene in the last couple of years since Myrtle came in, and it's been obviously accelerated since Ten Hag came in. So to give you an example, for example, John Myrtle, like, once he started heading the youth development, we started pinching these young talents from La Liga and from Spain who are like 15, 16 years old, like the Garnachos and the Hannibal Mejbris and I think there's another kid as well. I think it's Mark Girardo or whatever. We pitched him from like La Liga academies, and we brought him over to United Academy. And obviously our academy has been improving as well. We won the FA Youth Cup. So there's been improvements in terms of like scouting, if that makes sense. And obviously like we got the Maguires and the Wan-Bissaka, but that was more like Ollie's recommendation and that sort of thing. So there's been improvements there. And obviously when Ten Hag came in as well, we know that, we had like who was that guy that was working at Liverpool? I can't remember. He was like the guy that helped, Klopp implement that gegenpressing and that sort of thing. So we're moving towards that, like, data science driven kind of scouting system. But obviously it takes time to see the results of that. But, players like the Garnachos and all these other guys, these guys have been scouted because, Murta essentially, changed some of the scouts in the club. But the stuff about the infrastructure at Carrington, that's not the managers or Murta's responsibility. That's on the owners. They have to sanction that. Like the state of Old Trafford, they just put. You know what I mean? That's to do with the owners.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that the scouting thing is on the managers or thing. I'm talking about how is a club a club as in quote big as Manchester United.
Yeah,
like we're supposed to be a big club. So for me, it's like that we should have the amount of resources to be able to have a good, sufficient scouting network. So it's always strange to me how I'm seeing that how likes of Brighton, Leicester, even Newcastle now, with some like the Gamera signing, was all these different sort of things where they're making these. United are still. You're saying things are changing. Like, okay, fine, but they still.
I think give it time. If we have Ten Hag in, look at Martinez and Malacia. We still spend 70 to 80 million on Martinez and Anthony, and I'm not saying those players are bad. But what I'm saying is that like I don't understand why the a club as supposed as big as United, has to spend that amount of money on players when if you have a global scout network, which you should as a big club, then you should be able to find a player of the potential caliber of that in South America, maybe in Africa, maybe in Asia, maybe in the Bundesliga, maybe in Ligue 1, etc., for half of the price. And if it doesn't work out, okay, fine. But at least people can say, okay, well, you made it. We can see what you're trying to do there. With United, I see a club where I'm like, I don't know where that is. And what I don't understand is and why this interview almost, with the Glazers segment anyway, hit it home was like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. We keep, like you said, we keep saying, give it time. Like, but this is supposed to be the big club. If the big club in the world that has more resources has a worse data-driven scouting thing than Brighton and Leicester, then something is wrong. Because those clubs, those smaller clubs, shouldn't be able to compete with Manchester United in that level. Yeah.
So
Ed Woodward tax, man. Ed Woodward tax, but he's gone now. So hopefully we'll see some changes going forward.
So let's quickly move on. Let me quickly go into the comments, and again we'll move on. Let's have a look. People like to. Oh yeah, I said that. Ronaldo in, Ten Hag out, Glazers in. Shout out to Ant and shout out to Brendan Rodgers and Leicester gang. You guys are back. I said you should back your manager, Ant. I said you should back your manager. I said you should back Rodgers, and he's come back. So there you go. I was right. If I look at Ronaldo, talk about a grading structure to soften the blow. About what the interview? I don't know. I wouldn't have got that from the interview. I think he spent quite a bit of it, at least the first part that I was watching anyway, talking. I think it was more talking about the shock of how things were.
Been stuck in time.
Stuck in time, because you can imagine you come back. I think he knew, because he said, I knew that things weren't great, but I was
not that bad.
And I remember I think when Zlatan, one of Zlatan's books, that he talked about it briefly, how he was like, you just think on the outside when Manchester United, a big club, all this sort of stuff. When you get into the inside, like I think Zlatan, he said these words, and people dismissed it at the time because they're like, "Oh yeah, Zlatan, what do you know?"
Closed mentality. Yeah,
he said that he had a very closed mentality, not win, progress, and very business sort of. And Zassan said that, and people ignored him and said he was garbage for saying that. But and again, people are entitled to their opinions, but my fear is always that, okay, yeah, eventually, whatever happens, Ronaldo is going to be leaving the club anyway. Regardless, I think that's going to happen. I think he would. I think he probably should, and I think he should as well. But the mentality that we're talking about is still going to be there. So he goes, but the infrastructure is still going to be there. And as I said, like, are we literally going to be here in 2.5 years' time? And I'll hear people say, "Oh, Ten Hag just, he only managed Ajax. That's why he didn't succeed."
Yeah, this is why Ten Hag has to go on win things, because this interview would look like as if an indictment on him, basically saying that he can't handle big personalities, he can't handle a big club, and it was honestly, I don't want to see those titles a year or 2 years from now. So I hope for his sake that he goes on and achieves great things at United.
He didn't say anything about those things when he was in the team and scoring. So that was the beginning of last season. So we'll get to his comments. We'll get to his comments about Ollie Ragnick and something. So that'll come to as well. 500k a week would make me emotional too. He loved United so much. He was on his way to City. Oh yeah, no, I don't think that. I think that he, as he said in the interview, that it was like if it was going by a pure head decision, he would have gone to Manchester City. But if it was an in quote heart decision, then I don't know. The money, 500k. That's one thing I got from the interview. I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether the money really is at that level. Was that big of a deal? Really? Maybe it was. I don't know. So, but like 500k a week is like, to be honest, like he's a business. He's probably getting way more than that in endorsements and things.
That's facts.
Like we often look at people's salaries and go, "Oh, 500k a week is like," but to be honest, like he's probably getting more than that. He could probably retire from football now, because bear in mind he could go to Saudi Arabia, 350. He could.
I think he should go. 350 mil for 2 years.
Yeah, I would have done that. And the thing is, you could set up your own like he can make, like David Beckham probably has made more money from being out of football than when he was a football player.
Nah, he was collecting money when he was a football player. I'm not gonna lie, man.
He was, but I mean, if you tell him now, like, is he earning more or less than when he was playing for Manchester United? Of course, he's earning more, way more.
Inflation and inflation tax.
Inflation tax, or like he would push back tax, So if United are best, Ronaldo wouldn't have come back at all, showing more of up. That is true. I agree with that. That is true. It'd been a bad mistake to he's a legend, but nowhere near the guys you mentioned. Hugo Sanchez is more Real Madrid legend R9, but we all know who was the better player. It's fair. Ronaldo's more Madrid legend United, because if you look at the time period, Rooney, Ria, and so on are big United, even though they aren't our best players during that time period. Again, that's a fair point.
I disagree, man.
The fact that SGSP looks more up to date is authors under Mike Ashley. Well, let's not even go there. The fact that St. James's Park looks more up to date is authors under Mike Ashley. It wasn't even touched, bro. I'm speaking facts. St. James's Park is a much better stadium in terms of the infrastructure of it than Old Trafford. It really shocked me the first time I went to Old Trafford, because I was like, wow. So, but that's just come to Old Trafford sometime,
Where's King Riches?
I think he's some I don't know, red pillar or something. I don't know.
Google this guy.
Your fans will not accept getting players from Luton Norwich like we. See, this is the thing. Nasta Rogers out. See, this is the thing. I'll be honest. I would accept a player like Luton. The thing is, it's the scouting. See, if you scout a player from a Luton Norwich and he turns out to ball, then the next time you do it, of course you are. So I don't think that United players would be like, oh, we would definitely never take anyone from the lower divisions, etc. It's just that if the evidence of the scouting network provided dividends. The problem is that I just don't know whether our scouting network is good at all. and what we're just seeing is that we're still, even this summer, I'll be honest, I still think that we overpaid for Anthony Martinez. We didn't have to pay that amount if we'd said, let's speak to Ajax at the beginning of the transfer window so they could sort out their players. There's nothing that I saw from the Manchester United transfer strategy this summer that made me think that United's their strategy, their mindset's changed. Nothing at all. Overpaying for players, panic buys, very little scouting, and chasing players that don't want to come to the club. That's basically how Manchester has been for the last couple of years. I hope it works because I love Casemiro. It works, but nothing. I didn't see anything that changed for me, So, and a couple of comments. I think Cristiano was right I think Cristiano was right in Ten Hag's wrong treatment of Cristiano. He was saying counts on him on the press, but opposite behind the scenes. Yeah, we'll talk about that. He did say the club can be fixed back in January. Is that in relation to Ronaldo saying the club can be fixed? Ronaldo was not insulting Ragnick. All he said was that he was not a good manager. He's a great philosopher, but a poor manager. Okay. You can't just magically become a good manager. We're going to talk about that next. Hey, shout out to Offer and watching on Twitch. Thank and for those watching on Twitch. Cristiano has the right to respond when media were creating lies or some about him. Yeah, I mean, is what it is. The thing with CR7 fans, a lot of them started with Manchester United. That is the root of where the fan was come from. They will always come back CR7 over the club. Yes and no. I think that there was also he did spend a lot of his time at Real Madrid. I think
only 2 more years than United.
Yeah, but I also think that the social media era came when he was at Real Madrid.
Yeah,
right. And I think that's where it generated, because had he you can't underestimate the impact that social media had, because I feel the whole Ronaldo thing happened because La Liga created the environment of Ronaldo versus Messi. I don't think you would have had the Ronaldo fanboys, or if he'd say, for example, stayed in the Premier League of Manchester United, I don't necessarily think you would have had that to the same extent. But a lot of that fanboyism was created because La Liga created a situation where you had Messi growing and Ronaldo growing, and they cultivated that in their marketing and in their produce. So I would say that, if anything, the fanboyism was driven by La Liga more than anything. G, what is going on? Man U reality TV is entertaining. Shout out to Roy, by the way. Shout out to Roy from.
Hey, Adios. You know that this interview, a lot of old timers will compare it to the Princess Diana interview in '96. This literally shut down everything, bro. I saw billboards when I was driving outside yesterday and the day before yesterday, saying this interview is on Talk TV, on these channels X, Y, and Z. Like, it's crazy, like just how much draw this guy has. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's mad.
People forget Roy Keane and him had an interview anyway. Well, we're talking on Roy Keane had an interview on MUTV.
That never got aired.
And they had, and then that was that. But he does talk about Roy Keane in this as well. Awan Bissaka, Maguire, Dan James window is the worst window of all time. Yeah, that was
in
bad.
In hindsight.
You should be looking at Alex Scott versus the next big insurance. We have been linked to him. Instead, you move like to spend 100 million on Madison, and you're not wrong there. You're not wrong. Alec Johnson says, hilarious how bad Manchester run, but the fans will love City owners and not all Manchester is blue. Just Azim Alec, you're a City fan, and the only thing I'll say is that it's important that at some point you win a Champions League. That's my point of view. At some point you have to win a Champions League, But I appreciate the feedback there. Big up, the interview was a shambles. I'm still waiting for the punchline. Says Solo, shout out to you, buddy. Make sure you subscribe to Man United Agenda. I played it with Messi, not remember from the stupid vibe, but they're grateful about it, and that is fair. Right, let's quickly move on, son, because still got lots to talk about. But RAGNICK and ROONEY. So before I pass it back to you again, Factos. So he talks obviously about the fact that when obviously Oli was sacked, and when he was talking about RAGNICK, I didn't get the impression that he he didn't respect Ragnick, or because he called him boss, or he disrespected him. But essentially, his comments were the vein of like, I didn't understand who is this guy, basically. Like, I don't know where. So for that, I thought that, I mean, well, on the one hand, I'll try and be balanced. I thought it was disrespectful because at the end of the day, it's like, this is a guy who's clearly got.
No. Adios, stop it. For real though, when you heard United Ralph Rangnick, that was my reaction. I was like, who? Ralph? Who?
Yeah.
Where's he
No.
from?
I agree. I agree. I still think it was disrespectful.
His name has never came on our radars for the past 10, 15 years.
I know.
And he's coming to coach. Like, what the hell?
I know. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I still think Cristiano was disrespectful in the sense of like saying, I don't know who this guy's, etc. But, and I'll get to my point, but what I will say is that I doubt he was the only player that thought that.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of players thought that. I don't think that Cristiano Ronaldo is the reason why Ragnick struggled at Manchester United. I also, and when Ragnick was dropping him, because he dropped Ronaldo quite a fair times, there was no beef from what I can see with that. No outbursts and that. There was anything.
That's because he flew to Portugal, saying that he had a back problem, whatever it was.
But also, I think that I do agree that I think that the way the club handled that period was stupid. Because
but here's the thing. Let me just play devil's advocate for a bit, because they say hindsight is 2020. We all are experts when we look back and we say, we should have done that. But I remember that time when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got sacked. There was no credible candidate to come and take over the job straight away. Now, what everybody was saying, because we'd been mentally scarred by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when we tried to, get an interim manager, and then because what they did, we gave him a job full time. Nobody said, let's wait till the summer. Do you know what I mean? They did not want us to give somebody an interim job. They do well, and they didn't want us to rush it. That's what everybody was feeling. And then when Ragnick got appointed, we knew that he was his main role was a sporting director. We thought, okay, let him steady the shit for 6 months, because the season was pretty much a write-off at that time. We could still have fought for top 4, and I think we're still in the FA Cup, and we were still in the knockout phase for the Champions League. Cristiano Ronaldo was scoring goals and all this other stuff. He had 6 goals in like 6 games. Bruno Fernandes, top assist in the Champions League at that time. Don't explain to me how them guys were putting up numbers even when we were playing crap. I'll never know. So yes, we can look back and say we shouldn't have hired Rangnick, but then who should we have hired? And let me take you back to that time and tell me with chest right now and say you should have hired Conte, or should have hired who? Ten Hag didn't want to leave Ajax until the end of the season. So who are you going to get?
No, but the thing is, so let me push back on the thing is that the situation is that you're right. Who should we have hired? But the thing is that the board had also, going by what the comments that Ragnick had said, had promised Ragnick certain things. So the issue for me was that if you're going to hire someone in the interim, that at the very least the communication, because clearly Ragnick, I think at certain points said he might have wanted the job. Ragnick didn't accept this job being like, yeah, I'm going to just accept this job for just 6 months and that's it. He accepted the job based on either the potential to do the manager or potential the consultancy thing. None of that materialized. So there was clearly a lack of. My point here is
no. I think initially the board was very clear to him, because it turns out that we had to pay him something like £14 million to cancel his contract. So clearly there was an agreement for him to come upstairs in the future. But I feel like Ragnick has to look himself in the mirror and blame himself for dropping the ball on this situation, because he came in, his philosophy was good. I remember going to that first game against Crystal Palace, that half an hour, bro, that football was amazing. Brilliant. His philosophy was good, but the problem is that he came in as a consultant, but he was supposed to start working as a consultant in summer. He started working as a consultant straight away. And if you've ever worked in a professional environment, nobody really likes consultants coming in and telling people this is what you need to do. So
like you need to buy a striker in January. Hey,
it's not even about that. It's just bad mouthing the players to the board and saying this one is not good enough. You need to replace him. You need to replace him. No, mate. Your job right now, you do the consultancy at the end of the season. Your job right now is to steady the ship, get the best out of these players. Yeah. Flatter their ego and all this other stuff, like pander to their ego, make them feel good, massage them and all this other stuff until the end of the season. Why are you telling the board to replace Cristiano Ronaldo in January and you have to work with him? You're a consultant. They don't even have a full-time manager. How are you making recommendations of transfers? That's even more stupid. So the board were right in not signing players based on Rangnick's recommendations because he wasn't going to be there. Do you know what I mean? And his philosophy and the new manager's philosophy, who would have known that they would have married up with each other? He started being a consultant straight away. And that rubbed the players the wrong way because, they knew that, he was telling the board, Lingard is not good enough. Rashford is trash. I prefer Elanga. How is Rashford supposed to get his confidence back? How is, you know what I mean? Cristiano doesn't press X, Y, and Z. So to me, when it comes to the Rangnick situation, of course, Ronaldo was a little bit harsh when he said that, who the hell was this guy? I feel like that as well, but you got to give him a chance. But I feel like he shot himself and the dressing room just never really he never managed to command that respect from the dressing room. Maybe because he was just an interim. But we've seen interim managers do well in the past. So that Rangnick situation, that's totally on Rangnick. He's the biggest charlatan in football right now. Like, the guy's literally the worst manager Manchester United have ever had. Period.
I think that's
since the Premier League started. He's worse than Moyes. He was terrible.
He seems to be balling with Austria though. So, let's park the Ragnick thing aside and just briefly talk about Rooney and his comments on Rooney. Now, like I said, the only taking notes, the whole kind of good-looking jokes with him. Like I look better, the thing like that. I saw some of posts of that on Twitter as it's jabs, but Piers Morgan, when I watched the interview, Piers Morgan is the one that brought up Rooney. So first and foremost, that's the key thing. It wasn't Ronaldo being like, Rooney's this, because that's the impression I got from Twitter that he went at Piers Morgan brought up I think the concept idea was criticism of the last couple of years or so during a time with Ragnick and going into this season, and he said, and Piers mentioned one of those critics being Rooney. I think Neville obviously a bit later, but and then the joke about he's looking good, etc. It's like I didn't really read much into that if in my opinion, I think that it was clearly a jokey context thing.
Yeah,
banter. It was tongue in cheek. He's clearly not. The only of the comments I could get from with Rooney, with Rooney, was just that he said that he didn't kind of understand the criticism that he was giving him. Why players come up with comments? Maybe it could be because he's jealous, etc., and so forth. Because he's playing to 37 things. I don't know. So that certainly, from my perspective, I could say could come across as being like petty. And I would agree with that.
Yeah.
No, I think the thing is because maybe it's because I'm old school, but I've never liked when and even Sir Alex Ferguson and Keane do this and I don't like it. Is that I've never liked the idea of ex players commenting on or people just commenting on the teams or coming on things going on in the club. It's like I just don't get why. I just don't understand. I just don't get it, So like it's the same thing when Ollie happened. This happened a lot under like Ollie and Piers managers, which is why.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, I've got slightly controversial opinions on this. I'll ask you this: like, do you think ex-players should criticize their ex-teammates, especially if they're still playing? Do you think that's right? I don't think. I personally don't think that's, and I agree with Cristiano on this. I personally don't think that is right. Now I understand, you gotta keep it a stack. You're paid to give an opinion, and that's what I get that sentiment 100%. But I also work in a field whereby if you have a conflict of interest, you don't have to give an opinion, you know. You can accuse yourself. You know, like sometimes you get a judge, he has to accuse himself because there might be a conflict of interest. Maybe he's invested in a company that he has to pass judgments on. You don't have to say anything. And this is where I respect Rio Ferdinand and Roy Keane. We know that deep down in their hearts, they don't agree with what Cristiano is doing. We know that. But they're backing him publicly because it's a principle. You don't go against your Wayne Rooney, mate. You was in this guy's house 6 months ago. Your son, you picking up your son and his son, they're going to play. You're going into a man's house and you think it's okay to criticize him in public. Take a leaf out of, what's his name, Jamie Carragher's book. I respect Carragher because he didn't go against his mate. He never went against Steven Gerrard.
I just think that at the end of the day,
I don't like. No. Let me finish on this because,
go on, okay.
Let's take it into real life. You have a friend. Let's say you and HH are friends, right? He does something. Are you gonna go after him in public, or are you gonna be like, you know, we all make mistakes. He's a good guy. I'm pretty sure he would. Or are you gonna be like, yo, that's bang out of order. He's a dickhead. He's this, he's that. You're not gonna do that. So then why do we expect football players to not act like human beings and not back their friends or people that they have bonds with, that they spend, you know, family time together? I don't understand this. Like, I think what Wayne Rooney did was bang out of order, man. You can't do that to a man your children spends time with. That's ridiculous.
I think the problem is that people think I think the issue is that these people often paid pundits. And obviously, to be paid pundits, there's an element of expectation that you're paid that you're supposed to be not biased. Now, obviously, that's BS because almost
RDS. At the end of the day, this is football. Yeah, this is a round thing made out of cow leather, whatever. We're kicking into. It's not that deep.
Yeah,
it's not worth losing friendship over. It really isn't, and that's what Jamie Carragher thought in his head. It's not worth me losing a friendship with Steven Gerrard just to give an opinion on Sky Sports.
Let me clarify. I think the first thing is that we need to also assume that use the term friendship, you know, because I think a lot of football players are footballers or managers, people that aren't friends. They're colleagues. Like when I have colleagues and I have friends, and sometimes they're the same and sometimes they're not. So clearly Ronaldo I don't think that certain United players or ex-players are colleagues.
And that's why I said I respect Rio, because Rio was his neighbor, as Ronaldo said. So clearly they have a bond and a friendship there, right? I respect him for not going against his mate. I respect Roy Keane as well.
I was a bit surprised by that because he said his comment, he was like, Roy Keane's the best captain I've ever had. I was like,
they clearly have a bond, innit? They clearly have a bond there.
They clearly have a bond there, you know. So go on.
And like Wayne Rooney, bro, like you're bringing your child and you're gonna curse me. No, that's out of order.
I think that's the key thing that when he was saying that, it's just like, this is what I'm saying. It's like, you know, the way I kind of see speech is that like, and this is why like whatever people say, when people say it shouldn't happen, I still think the interview should have happened. Because I believe that if you are, whether it's the press or it's politics, ex people, if you're going to allow people to have freedom of speech to say whatever they want, you don't have to provide the evidence. You can just say whatever you want and put it into the ether. Then the people, as in that you're speaking about, have the right to speak and represent themselves.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that if it's all one-sided, it creates a narrative that may or may not be true. And that's what's happened with this. So you needed some. So I would much rather be in a situation where players, in whatever sport they do, instead of doing this kind of lethargic, machine-like, like when you see players interviewed at the end of football games, and like, yeah, you know, we tried really hard, and we didn't like it today and stuff like that. I'd rather see Rashford be like, I was pissed that I missed that. I was this. Why did that person do this?
that Southampton player, was it Charlie something? A striker. He was going, "This is the best referees in the world. What's going on?"
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't get why don't people want to be in a world where people could just be open and honest about how they feel? Because football is an emotional game, it's a passionate sport. I'm not saying people should drop N-bombs or stuff, but like literally, you like almost every post-match interview for players and pre-and managers is the same. You know what they're going to say.
You can predict the questions as well. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And you know that, So
and to be fair, Cristiano is one of those athletes that, and Jose Mourinho as well, that you actually tune in because it's so unpredictable. You know what they're gonna say in it, like that. He remember that interview he did before the Athletic game. He said, I've got 5, they've got 0, and all this other stuff. Like, at least he brings a little bit of personality to it. You know what I mean? And I definitely respect that. But just to finish off on this, because unfortunately I have to go, man.
No,
I thought Wayne Rooney, what he did was bang out of order, and I feel like there's always been an element of jealousy between these two, between Cristiano and Wayne Rooney. Because when Cristiano first joined United, he joined a year before Wayne Rooney, and he was the poster boy for Manchester United. Like, he was the young kid, basically. And then the Euros happened. Everyone was talking about Wayne Rooney after Euro 2004. And guess what? United went and bought him. Rooney was, during that time, Rooney was a better player than Ronaldo. Like, he was a more important player to us than Ronaldo. And you could sense a bit of jealousy in Ronaldo. And that moment in World Cup 2006, when, before the wink and all that, remember, he headbutted him or something before the game started, just to kind of rile him up. And then obviously after that, Fergie decided to build the team around Cristiano Ronaldo, making Rooney do all these runs on the wings and track fullbacks and that sort of thing. So I feel like there's always been a bit of jealousy there, and obviously the way Wayne Rooney is looking right now, it looks like he owns a chip shop or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I do sense a little bit of resentment and a little bit of jealousy there. But I feel like I'm not saying they are friends, but clearly, like, if your children are hanging out together, it's not worth ruining it, that relationship, for your children's sake, for an interview on Bloody Talk Sport. It really is not. It really isn't worth it. This is just football at the end of the day. Do you see what I mean? And people bashing Cristiano for saying what he's saying, I feel like they're removing themselves from real life, because you would, if your friend did that in public, you would not. You know what I mean? You wouldn't like it. You would want your friends to back you in public, and in private they can iron you out. But in public, you can be political about it. We saw Gary Neville be political about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Yeah, exactly.
So to your other teammate, and I don't know, man.
or at least
don't like it at all. I just don't like
or
it.
at least if it happens, then don't be surprised when people have that's why I don't get it. It's like people like when people, for example, when people talk about respect, because obviously but I'm gonna talk about Ollie and Ten Hag in a bit, because we don't really talk about Ten Hag yet.
I wish I was there for that one, man. I have to catch you next time, bro.
But like, people talk about, he disrespected the manager. I'm like, how many people online in the press were disrespecting Ollie? Even in the first year when they were like, Ollie's a PE teacher, it's a fan, all these different things. And I don't remember anybody being like, why are you disrespecting Ollie? It just seemed to be acceptable to say that he was a PE teacher, despite the fact that he managed Mola, despite the fact that he had training by so I don't like this kind of selective forgetfulness that people have, where they come
agendas, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they have a moral. My spirit is just try and be consistent. Try and be less of a hypocrite as you can. Don't come out and say, you're disrespectful saying this while this manager's currently Manchester United in regard to Ten Hag, and then on one hand, say, I completely disrespect Ollie or Jose or Van Gaal because they're not giving me the results that I want. So if X players disrespect him, that's fine. If media disrespect him, that's fine. If even individual players via the agents say stuff that's outlandish, that's fine. Like, you know, but he can't. But the person they're disrespecting can't say anything. So Ollie came out and was like, "Listen, this is. I don't like being called a PE teacher. I don't like. Oh, how can you do that, Ollie? How can
yeah, like on the disrespect thing, obviously in the context of what he said about Ten Hag. Now, I will say this in my completely subjective personal opinion. I don't think the explanation from Cristiano Ronaldo is enough to say that he's been disrespected, because all I hear is this guy asked me to come in the game with 3 minutes to left and I'm disrespected. I don't agree with that notion at all. But what I will say is that disrespect is completely subjective. Completely subjective. We can sit here. You probably disagree with me that he wasn't disrespected, but it's completely subjective because we all come from different backgrounds and we all have different not hierarchies, but we all have like different statuses in society, in the fields that we operate in. So saying a certain comment to somebody who works as a cleaner in an office in a Fortune 500 company might not be disrespectful, but say the same comment to the CEO of the company, you're out of the job, man. It's completely disrespectful. So taking Ilanga or telling Ilanga, yo, come on, you got 20 seconds. We're gonna sub you in just to waste time, yeah? That's not disrespectful. But trying to do that to a Messi, a Maradona, a Pele, I can see why somebody can see that as being disrespectful.
Yeah, no,
you think you pay me £500,000 to come and waste time? do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
I can see why that can be deemed. I don't think it's serious enough for you to then say that I'm not going to have respect for the manager. But then again, I'm wrong. Am I even wrong for saying that because it's completely subjective? I don't know. But I do feel like it's a petty reason. But at the end of the day, it's like I said, it's subjective, isn't it?
I think at the end of the day, respect is something that you respect. I always believe respect is not something you demand; it's something that you earn.
You earn, yeah. So you
don't. Yeah. So I don't. So when people say, like, even when people say, you know, that I should respect a Josie and Ole, Ten Hag or whatever, or those, I'm always like, my respect. They have to show. I don't just automatically respect someone because they're the new manager or there's this or that. Just like, no. For me, respect something that you earn. So when I've seen enough evidence to me that I'll go, oh yeah, I respect what you've done.
Oh, sorry. Do you think that's what it is? Cristiano looks at Ten Hag and says, looking at your CV, pal, and are they the visa titles? 5 of them, 3 of them? How can you demand respect from me? I'm one of the greatest. Do you think that's what it is at the end of the day?
I think, and again, I don't know because I don't want to speculate with this sort of thing, but like I think that Ten Hag very much wants to, because I do believe that one reason why Ralph was let go was because Ten Hag didn't want that that he wanted to be more in control of kind of stuff, driving the process, and he didn't want a consultant like Ralph influencing things. So I believe that Ten Hag's mentality is that, and it's fair enough. That's fine. I have no issue with him doing that. He's the manager; he can do what he wants, and he should be backed. That's my belief, you know. So, but I think in that respect, his relation to Ronaldo is: listen, at the end of the day, I'm the boss, I'm manager, I'm in charge. You don't suit my style of play or how I want to play or your perform. So I'm gonna bench you, but I have to portray a certain way to the press, the camera, and be professional, that he's respected, blah blah blah. That's fine. But really, if the club had backed me and bought me like a striker, then I wouldn't see you. So I'm resigned to the fact that in the summer you're going to be here till summer, because the reality I think is that I don't think Manchester United are going to sell Ronaldo in January.
Oh, he's gone, bro. He's gone.
No.
No. Adios. Listen to what you just said there. See, on a deeper level, we are men, and we are men, and we know that men, we are very is that apple juice, cloudy apple juice, that bangs. And we know that as men, like we have that alphaness in us. Not all of them, but majority of them. We can be quite territorial and that sort of thing. We like to, as I say, maybe lay down the law to let everybody know who's in charge and that sort of thing. And Cristiano Ronaldo is an alpha in every sense of the word. There's no denying about that.
Okay.
I also get this weird feeling that Erik ten Hag also is. And I feel like this is what it's boiled down to. Ten Hag is trying to set his stall at Manchester United. He just arrived. He wants to announce to everyone that I'm the one who's in charge in here. If I tell you to come in after 2 minutes, then you come in after 2 minutes. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because I say what happens in this place. Nobody else does. And Cristiano, he's not used to, people treating him like that. Do you see what I mean?
No, I don't believe that, because I believe that Zidane is also now. He's been managed by Zidane. There's no way that Zinedine
Zidane wasn't putting him in 2 minutes to go waste time, bro.
But what I mean in terms of alpha, if you're talking about in terms of alphaness, there's no way that someone like Zinedine Zidane, who had to manage so many egos.
No. I hear it. But like the thing is, Zidane as well, he was already established at Real Madrid. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Ten Hag is the new guy. He's trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? He's trying to sort of like, put the hammer down. That's the first thing, because he's never been to United before. Do you know what I mean? So
how many didn't
look at how he treated Harry Maguire.
Yeah, and that's what concerns me, because Moyes did that. Van Gaal did that. Jose did that. They all tried to establish their. Yeah, it did, because they all tried to establish their. The reason why the players loved Oli was because they were like, he let them be. And even Ronaldo in this interview, like he doesn't say anything bad about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He says he loved him. He said it was which is interesting, because around that time, a lot of the press were like, "Oh, Ronaldo's the one that got Oli sacked. Ronaldo wants Oli out. Ronaldo this, Oli that." But the impression I got from his interview is that if Ronaldo had his way, Ronaldo probably wouldn't have sacked Oli.
I didn't believe him when he said that. I didn't believe him when he said that. He was being political, like I said, protecting his mate.
But I don't think there was any beef between him and Oli. Is the point I'm trying to make.
But no, what I'm trying to say is that Ten Hag is trying to control, the ship, basically, if that makes sense. Before he joined, as Alex Ferguson said, Erik ten Hag needs to come and take control of this place. Now, if he's marking his territory and putting Ronaldo in his place, putting Harry Maguire in his place, do you think these players will get away with petulance going forward? See, at the beginning of the season, we all said we need a sacrificial lamb for Erik ten Hag, because these players have been, they've been high of player power for so long. They've been insubordinates. They've been lying about X, Y, and Z, faking injuries, Luke Shaw being fat, and all this other stuff. We need to sort of like have a reset. We need to change the culture of the football club. We need somebody
that comes from the top
there
down.
who the players. Yeah, we need somebody there who the players are scared of. I thought that sacrificial lamb was going to be Marcus Rashford. This boy who's a politician, who everybody loves at Manchester United. He's not been performing, and we're going to sell him. I thought it was going to be him, but it turns out it's Cristiano Ronaldo and Harry Maguire, and that sends a big message to the dressing room, a big message saying that I'm the one who's in charge here. If you guys do as I say, you will stay here. If you don't do as I say, you're out of here. And this is why Manchester United, as much as I love him, and you see I'm wearing this scarf, I'm going to have it on me in my house forever and ever. As much as I love him, he's got to go. He has to go. He has to. Even his own footballing daddy, Sir Alex Ferguson, would tell him that if you did this under my watch, you have to go. He has to go for the better of the club and for the better of the team and for himself as well. And as I said before, if Erik ten Hag can achieve success from this moment on, we'll look at this moment in a positive way. But if he doesn't, we'll look at this moment and said, maybe Cristiano was right. But I do feel like, like when you have two friends and they fall over for petty reasons, you know that there's something deeper there. Like they're just not connecting somehow, and you fall out of a petty reason because man told you to come in after 3 minutes. And look at your reaction. You walked out of the stadium. I understand if you go to the dressing room, wait for him and start shouting.
He said an interview. He said an interview there are things that he didn't. There's clearly other stuff they didn't mention because he said a few times in the interview that that he couldn't say or was to say so much. So there's clearly some stuff going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, of course.
Where I agree with in terms of that. Like so the idea that people will go by Ten Hag's word and say, oh yeah, like Ten Hag is obviously lying about like stuff for the sake of the press. It clearly is, So we know in the summer, for example, that he went all out for like Frankie de Jong, but he's not mentioned that to talk. Like he's not mentioned that at all in his summer press conference at all. Just like we go for certain players and for that. It's like I say I don't agree with you. I think it should. I just think that. With what I know of the Glazers, and understanding how they will do things, then there was no way that the Glazers are going to sell, because on the contract, Cristiano Ronaldo to a rival club. That is not going to happen.
I don't think there's going to be a sale. I think his contract will be terminated.
So they might. Okay, yes, they might terminate his contract. But what I think will more likely happen is that because at the end of the day, like whatever you. At the end of the day, and maybe this is the cynicism of me saying that. It's like, oh yeah, they're pursuing legal means.
You always had this ideas, man. He was
cynicism because at the end of the day, like he's still people. I don't know why people think the Glazers are football fans. They're not.
They're not.
They're business people. Like they don't. He even said in the interview, I've not spoken to the Glazers.
Yeah,
I've not spoken to them. So the way I see it is that at the end of the day. Some executives there might not want him there, want him gone, but I don't think the Glazers are that. The Glazers see
even after he badmouth the Glazers.
No, because what did the Glazers see? They see a dollar. They also don't like. They also don't like. When you saw those dollar signs come out of those people's eyes like that.
I know, but they are also PR merchants, man. Every time we used to get PR, you know what they used to do? Go sign us in a shiny new toy because they don't like bad PR.
Bro, they'll be thinking the World Cup. They'll be thinking the World Cup is on for next month. It'll blow over. Imagine if Cristiano has a decent World Cup or something like that. That people's attention, because at the end of the day, people these days have short attention spans.
I know, but like you can't have a manager. You can't listen. You cannot have a player come out publicly and say, I don't respect the manager, and then force him onto the manager to. If I'm Ten Hag, I'm resigning if Cristiano comes back.
Yeah, I'm
gone. I'm resigning.
So probably what will happen is that, like, I think what will probably happen is that they won't let him go, and then they'll leave his fate to Ten Hag, who might be like, well, okay, you just rot in the reserves for the remaining thing. That might happen, but I don't know. I just don't see whatever you say. Ronaldo, even for just PR and money, is currently an asset to Manchester United from that point of view.
You know, they've removed his pictures around Old Trafford.
Have they?
Yeah. They removed the big mural that was with him, Cantona, and Bex. They've taken out the Cristiano Ronaldo part. It's happening, bro. It's gone, man. He's gone.
Okay. Well,
it's good for the club. Yeah. But my guy, I'll catch you on the next stream.
Right. Yeah, no problem. I'll round things up here. You take care, Factos. You take care. See you later. Right. Okay. Let me just finish rounding up here, guys. And I think my thoughts. Thank you, Factos, and thank you those who are watching. Let me quickly go for some comments, and then I'll give my final thoughts on his comments about Ten Hag, the youth. And obviously his unfortunate circumstances in the summer. So let's just have a look. Looks like that's Your City's Blue. No, it is not. CR7 destroyed Rooney. Paradise, I think Cristiano was right about RAGNIK. Massive club like Manchester shouldn't sign sporting directors. Manchester is 100% correct. Well, Van Diesel, family, shouts at 74. Rock Band Fazza says you should have Chicharito. Chicharito was finished. Jedi says Ronaldo goes to Bayern, scores 15 goals a season. Is what you meant? Probably. Cristiano exposed the owners and how they have failed ever since Sir X-Ferguson. He said the clubs were behind. This is good. That's true, but I don't think people see it that way. And if I'm honest, you know, let's just keep it a stack. I think the Glazers out whole thing, people forget about it as soon as the season starts, and as soon as players are bought. Like, if you want a change of ownership, you have to be consistent and sustained throughout the whole period. You can't just be Glazers out for like 1 or 2 months a year before while the transfer window is going on. You know, you can't. So I think the Glazers know that, and I think they know that, you know, when there's positivity, when it's a shiny new toy, that people forget about it. The cynic in me says that at the end of the day, until the structure above changes in a substantial way, I think you're just going to see a repeat. Ronaldo will probably leave the club, but a lot of the stuff he said, I don't think is wrong. You know, like when I think a lot of United fans just think that other clubs are just going to be static. That Liverpool, that Newcastle, that City, that Arsenal, that Chelsea, that all these clubs are just going to remain static and not go forward. No, they're going to. And United have basically been riding on the foundation of maybe 30 years pre-2013 of a base of dominance, and they've been riding on that. But I think in the next few years, they're not going to be able to anymore, you know? I'm hearing some words about Ragnick. Feels like Milan dodged a bullet. Gonzalez wants to bring Ragnick in Milan. Yeah, I mean, well, I think he was a bit harsh in that respect. I think if Ragnick got the players he wanted, he would have been able to play really good football, personally, because I love the gegenpress. About battering Rooney. Alec Jones says, Haaland scores. That's great, but what did he do against Brentford? Alec Johnson. He told Rashford he should leave with some of the Glazers. Yeah, so that was something that I think that Ragnick didn't want Rashford, and then now Ten Hag wants him. It is what it is. I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe I'll give a video about my thoughts on the season so far. But if I'm honest, I'm not like a lot of United. I'm happy that we've won games, but there's nothing that I've seen so far that I'm thinking, compared to, say, a Newcastle, for example, that I'm hyped about. Like, we've been okay. You know, people say that we're better with Ronaldo out the team. I think that's true, but we're not that much better. You know, Ronaldo wasn't playing against Manchester City. He wasn't playing against Brighton. I'm not sure about Brentford. Even in the game against Fulham, where I think we played well in the first half, but in the second half, we were absolutely battered by Fulham. So I agree that we play better Ronaldo out of the team, but I don't think that we play like that we play so much better that the football is amazing, that I have hope that United will be successful going forward. I'm still the jury's still out on that, in my personal opinion. This is regarding yeah, he did. And I would have loved those players, but there you go. Shout out to Ragnick. This is regarding the Ralph slander. Paradise. Yeah, this is the thing. This is not just coming. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That there's things behind the scene that we don't really know about. I think. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Is I think a lot of people are saying that. Like, I think he's obviously wrong for coming out and saying that this is because that makes the situation with him and Ten Hag untenable. But at the end of the day, you know, that's just a standard thing in life. Like, you know, you don't respect someone who doesn't respect you, and vice versa. But maybe you should have kept that behind closed doors. Right, let me quickly round things up with my final thoughts on some things. So, the tragedy at home. Now, I think this is something that I don't want to dwell on a lot, but I think it was important to mention, because at the end of the day, part of this for me was thinking was like, why did Ronaldo react or act in this particular way? And clearly this year, he even said in the interview, he said, I've had almost a change in mindset and perspective. And clearly, the loss of his the twin son, and his daughter getting bronchiolitis on holiday, which was the reason why he obviously had time away. Because I agree with him. I think families above everything. He said people always say his ego is best. I don't know. I think he's right. I think in that sense, I think yeah, you put family over over professional career. I believe that 100%. 100%. I don't believe that that anyone should go out their way and sacrifice their family for a job, for a profession, no matter how much you're getting paid, because ultimately money, and maybe you understand this when you get a bit older, but ultimately money doesn't keep you warm at night unless you burn it. Nor is it there when you're in your last breath. Like it's money. The only purpose of money is to buy time. So family, I think, is everything, and I understand from his point of view why he thought that. If I'm honest, I get that. And if that was the reason, because his twin died, and then obviously he still had bronchitis, that situation, then I think that probably explains, it was sad, I think, to maybe hear that he felt the club wasn't respectful to that, or they didn't kind of believe him. I'm not quite sure what he meant, because the club still sanctioned his time out, and allowed him to not be there for pre-season. But if he felt that they didn't kind of believe him, because the impression that I got was that the club were annoyed that he didn't want to go on pre-season, because part of the reason why you go to pre-season is to play and make money, and that they were going to lose money because they're going to Thailand, they want to see Ronaldo, and he's going to this. They were thinking, we're going to be losing so much money because our main attraction isn't going. So I think that's the impression of goals, that they were probably annoyed at that reality, and so were like, "Are you sure you can't come on the tour? Are you sure you can't?" So that's the impression that I got, I would say. And Mechi says, "Family and legacy." Oh yeah, of course. Of course. At the end of the day, it's more important than anything. Your children, all of that, way more important than the money. Way more important. So yeah, I think that at the end of the day, like he was right to not go. And I think if the club did disrespect him in that respect, then that is wrong. Simple as that. And whether that experience over the last couple of months is what has prompted him to act in this manner, whether there's a mental health issue there, whether it is just all ego, I don't know. But what I can say is that it certainly has left an impact on him, and I have empathy in that area. The other area that I have empathy with, and I went with this, is Ronaldo's comments on the youth. Because in my notes, I've got more notes here. I've got tons. I could probably talk about this. He also talked about in the preseason that there were 8 players also left, but he only talked about Ronaldo. So that's something that I think is important. I think that's quite important, because again, the whole name of like, he left early preseason, Ronaldo, but 8 other players did. You don't hear their names. So again, it's a name thing. That's why I think when he goes, and he will, just like when Pogba left, just when all these players, these names kind of leave, it's like, right, okay, they're not here anymore. So now the pressure will be on the current players and on the manager to deliver. And then because there's no when there's no, the benefit sometimes of having those types of players is that there's always something for people to put on. But when those players aren't there, then there's nowhere to hide. But anyway, his comments on the youth I also think were quite good. I think the idea that the mentality of this generation is different. The hunger, and you mentioned this, the hunger, and this is why I actually agree with him. I actually don't think you're going to get a player to level with Ronaldo and Messi ever again. People saying Mbappe and Haaland, but he was right that this current generation, that the hunger, because it's so instant, because you get the money and so much money at such a young age, because of all technology, because of expectation, like the hunger, the drive isn't there. Like you have to ask yourself, why is it that like Ronaldo and Messi, they barely pick up injuries? They're always in good shape. Yes, they're not as good as they were, but how is it they're able to maintain themselves for so long, and yet so many young players get out injured, struggle to come back, all the rest of it? There's so many distractions. So you're like, yeah, I could come back earlier, but I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that. The hunger for the game isn't there, whilst at the same time the money is there as well. You know, people talk about players being bigger than the clubs, but you've got a player like Mbappe, and yes, he won a World Cup when he was 19, but I'm still waiting to see how this £100 million paid player a year is doing for his club. You know what I mean? You know, so I don't know, you know, so, but I agree with his comments there, that I just think that at the end of the day, if, you know, if you're going to say that, you know what, I'm not going to learn from Ronaldo or Messi or senior players and just do what I want to do, I think that's quite sad. And I also think that, you know, it's sad that I think going future-wise that we're just not going to get that level of longevity from players anymore, because they just don't have the same zeal, desire to do so. You know, but it is what it is. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up here, guys, because there's a lot and my voice is cracked. But it was good to get back streaming, guys. This interview was fascinating, and if I certainly think it will be good to do, I might split up the videos and do a bit more of it. But I thought overall, I can see why people are upset, but having watched it, it just felt for me like a conversation between friends, and that was it. That's just what I felt. That's just my opinion, and I think that I just don't. Even though I think that he should part ways because clearly he wants to leave, I just think that yeah, I just think it is what it is. That's my response. It is what it is. Anyway, guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter and X. Smash that notification button for latest Manchester news. Have a nice day, everyone, and cheers.